Have you ever just paused? Like, in a moment of absolute silence, maybe even as you're sitting here right now, and just looked around wondering about the shape of your own destiny? It's a massive question, one that's honestly haunted human consciousness since the very first time our ancestors looked up at the stars. Well, today, in this explainer, we're unpacking the full book Mental Time Travel. We're going to explore its groundbreaking framework, moving way beyond just daydreaming, to look at how we can, quite literally, engineer our future.
Seriously, I want you to really think about this for a second. How often have you wished you knew exactly what was going to happen tomorrow, or next week, or, say, in the next decade of your life? Uncertainty is basically the defining characteristic of being human, right? But what if I told you that the tools to decode that uncertainty are already hardwired right into your brain?
Okay, let's dive right into this map we've laid out. We've got 5 main areas to cover: the philosophy of time, reading the patterns, bridging generations, traps of the mind, and finally, engineering a 10-year plan.
Section 1. The Philosophy of Time, Understanding the Fabric of Our Experience. So before we can travel to the future, we fundamentally have to understand the fabric of the experience we're actually traveling through. When the book talks about mental time travel, it's not talking about sci-fi or quantum physics. We're talking about a mental simulation that's built on observable patterns and reliable data. You see, human beings are the only creatures on Earth that live in 3 time zones all at once. We remember the past, we experience the present, and we simulate the future, usually while staring blankly into the open fridge, right? But this isn't just some fun mental trick. It is a vital evolutionary survival tool. It's literally how we adapt.
Psychologist Thomas Suddendorf hits the nail on the head here. He says, memory is not just a historical record, it is the raw material of the future. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Our brains didn't evolve to remember the past just so we could get nostalgic about the good old days. No, they evolved to remember the past solely so we can survive and navigate the future.
And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between the 2 types of time we actually experience. On one side, there's physical time. That's objective, it's linear, measured by your watch, and it completely doesn't care about your feelings. But on the other side, we have psychological time, or mind time. This one is incredibly fluid. It stretches on endlessly when you're terrified or bored, and it completely compresses into a split second when you're joyful. Think about the scientific concept of the oddball effect, where a completely new experience makes time feel like it's slowing down just because your brain is processing so much novel data. Psychological time is absolutely a tool that you can manipulate.
Section 2. Reading the Patterns, Separating Chance from Universal Laws.
If psychological time is how we experience the journey, well, patterns are the signposts along the road. You've probably heard that famous saying, often attributed to Mark Twain, that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And honestly, it doesn't matter if we're looking at massive global economic crashes or just trying to figure out why you keep making the exact same mistakes in your personal relationships. The specific events don't repeat, but those underlying patterns, those rhyming structures, they absolutely do.
The catch is, our human brains are notoriously flawed. We see faces in clouds, we see deep meaning in static. So how do you spot a real universal life law instead of just a random accident? You run it through these 4 checks. First, repetition. Does this happen repeatedly? Timing. Does it arrive when you'd expect it to? Causality. Is there an actual logical driving force behind it? And foresight. If you had really been paying attention, could you have predicted this before it happened? If the answer to those is yes, you aren't just looking at chance. You're looking at a pattern you can actively use.
Section 3. Bridging Generations, Using Elders as Living Data Points.
One of the greatest untapped resources we have for forecasting the future is the people who have already lived through these patterns. But we often hit this wall of generational mismatch. Younger people tend to ignore their elders just because the technology has changed. But we aren't asking them for tech advice. We're asking for enduring, unchangeable human wisdom. So, the crucial point is, not every older person is automatically a fountain of insight. You have to actively filter them. You want mentors who actively reflect on their past, who've built a relatively stable life, who don't hide their failures, who actually walk their talk, and, this is key, people who possess a completely different worldview than you do just to snap you out of your own echo chamber.
And once you find those people, you can build a highly structured framework. You take a specific life area, you note down your current view, map it against the elder's actual lived experience, and then you extract the timeless lesson. Take relationships, for example. You might be focused on seeking quick connections while they really valued long-term loyalty. The extracted lesson? Well, communication methods change, sure, but deep trust remains absolutely foundational. Or look at money. You might favor high risk for fast growth. They might fear instability. The lesson there is that calculated risk is necessary, but it demands a safety net. You're literally mining their life story to get highly actionable data for yourself.
Let that sink in for a moment. A generation's wisdom is living data. It is not just a dusty collection of nostalgic stories. It's a thoroughly tested dataset of human behavior that you can use right now to navigate your own future. Section 4. Traps of the Mind: How Language and Bias Distort Our Future.
As we start gathering all this data, we have to be ruthlessly vigilant against invisible cognitive traps, things like confirmation bias, where you're only seeking out what you already believe, or survivorship bias, learning only from the winners and completely ignoring the incredibly vital lessons from those who failed. Then there's present bias, wanting that instant reward instead of waiting for a massive long-term gain. And of course, the sunk cost fallacy, stubbornly staying on a terrible path simply because you've already invested time or money into it. Relying on these flawed mental shortcuts will completely derail your mental time travel.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how language itself changes over time and totally trips us up. Just look at the word success. Back in the day, success usually meant property ownership, rigid stability, and societal respect. But today, for a lot of people, it means inner satisfaction, geographic flexibility, and achieving deeply personal goals. I mean, I once asked a mentor how to be successful, and he told me the secret was staying at the exact same company for 40 straight years. We were using the exact same word, but we meant entirely different things.
And that is exactly why you have to explicitly build your own personal dictionary. You need to sit down and rigorously define what words like success, failure, and love actually mean to you. If you skip this step, you run a massive, dangerous risk of accidentally engineering a future that's based entirely on someone else's definitions.
Section 5. Engineering a 10-year plan: Designing the map for tomorrow.
Let's move to the final piece and see how this all builds together into a 3-step engineering process. Step 1, you collect the data on yourself, the world, and others. Step 2, you build 5 distinct future scenarios. And Step 3, you make proactive decisions today based entirely on those scenarios.
Now you might be wondering, why 10 years? Because a single decade is the absolute perfect time frame. It's long enough that you aren't just reacting to the daily, exhausting chaos of your email inbox, and it's long enough to build something of profound, enduring meaning. Yet, it's short enough that you still feel that immediate, burning sense of urgency.
Okay, here is the absolute game changer. Do not just plan one path. You must write out these 5 distinct scenarios. The best path, where everything aligns perfectly. The blocked path, outlining exactly what you'll do if your primary goal suddenly becomes impossible. The bold path, exploring what you would do if you had absolutely zero financial or social restrictions. The adaptive path, for when your industry or your life goes through a dramatic pivot. And finally, the worst-case scenario, detailing exactly what you'll do if literally everything falls apart. Building these distinct scenarios cures the anxiety of the unknown. Why? Because no matter what the universe throws at you, you already have a playbook and a safety net.
This whole process totally shifts you from playing defense to playing offense. Anticipating these scenarios empowers you to make truly proactive decisions today. Instead of reacting to the future, you're engineering it. You start minimizing massive risks and seizing emerging opportunities years before anyone else even realizes they exist. Ultimately, it all comes down to this single, resonant truth from the book's core philosophy. You go to the future simply by building tomorrow today. You don't need a time machine to see what's coming. You just need the clarity to look at the patterns and the courage to start laying the bricks right now. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Grab a pen, get a piece of paper, and ask yourself right now, what will your 10-year scenario look like? The future isn't just something that happens to you, it's something you engineer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer of the full book, and I highly encourage you to start building your tomorrow today.